Coming up on this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society, Mario Kart Tour runs out of gas. It's dangerous to go alone, so the Nintendo Cartridge Society goes with you. Welcome to Nintendo Cartridge Society. My name is Patrick Ellers, and I am joined, as I'm always joined, by my co-host, Mark Mitchell. We've got a good show for you today. We're going to be talking about the news from the week, including no Zelda DLC, new hardware bundles, and new hardware rumors. It's a lot of news happening this week. And then on Thursday, we're probably going to be talking about a Nintendo Direct, but we'll just see about that, won't we? Mark, in the meantime, how's it going?
It's going great. I feel like we're tempting fate a little bit by putting it out there that we're going to be talking about Nintendo Direct. I feel like, and maybe I'm wrong, but I feel like in the past, even when we've thought there was a Nintendo Direct, we've like hedged our bets a little bit. We've been like, we're going to talk about this thing unless there's a Nintendo Direct.
See, I think we've done both.
Oh, okay.
I think we have done the thing where we're like, yeah, let's have something queued up and ready to go.
Yeah.
But then we've also done the thing where we're like, we're pretty sure there's going to be a Nintendo Direct.
And that's what we're I mean, look, one way or another,
yeah,
there will be another episode this week.
Yes, for sure. We will put something out on Thursday. Will it be first thing Thursday morning? No, maybe not.
Yeah, maybe not.
Maybe there'll be a Thursday Direct. That's possible.
Right. And if there's no Nintendo Direct, could it be just us reading alphabetically from the Mario Wiki? Possibly. Do we read the whole articles or just like the article names? I guess that is the piece we'll leave the audience in suspense for.
Okay, just like off the top of your head, what do you think alphabetically is the first article on the Mario Wiki?
Oh my gosh. Something with like a 0 in it.
Oh, sure. I forgot about numbers.
Yeah.
I was going to say like the albatross enemies from Super Mario Brothers 2.
Oh, that's pretty good.
Are you looking?
I am looking, but I actually don't know how I would, because there are, I don't know.
You can sort by like characters or whatever. But
okay, I'm just going to I'm going to do characters.
Okay.
Characters,
so characters
first.
The very first one alphabetically is
13 amp from WarioWare Gold.
Sure, that makes sense. What are we talking about? What are we doing? There's probably going to be a Nintendo Direct this week. We don't have any word of it yet from where we are recording on Monday evening. But if it happens, Mark and I will be there to talk about it. Otherwise, something else. So thank you to all of you for tuning in for that. If you would like to support us in any way, you can, I guess, support us with money. It's not in any way. You head over to patreon.com/Nintendo Cartridge Society, where if you are supporting us at the 8 or 16-bit tiers, you get access to our mini-series NCS Detective Club, which wrapped up a couple months ago. We are currently in the middle of NCS Goes Broadway. We just talked about Les Mis. I'm trying to remember. Have we revealed our next?
No, we haven't yet. Should we do it right now?
Sure.
Yeah, okay. So next we're going to be talking about The Music Man, Broadway classic.
Yep.
And then we'll have one more left in NCS Goes Broadway. And if you want to help decide what our next miniseries should be, you can join our Patreon. All Patreon subscribers can vote in a poll that will be going up in the next few weeks.
Some point soon, yes.
Yep, to help us determine what that next mini-series will be.
And if you are interested in supporting us on Patreon, or if you are not, you can always instead, or in addition to, go to Discord and join our Discord, where it's just a bunch of fun people having good conversations about Nintendo basically all the time. And look, there's a Direct coming up, we're pretty sure. That's a great place to be during the Direct. All you gotta do to get in there is email us at nintendocartridgesociety@gmail.com, and I will send you a link. You can join the Discord that way. Mark, we've got a ton of news to get through this week, so I say let's not keep screwing around. Let's get into what we've been playing this week. The big news, of course, in what we've been playing this week, Mark. Tetris 99 ticket update.
Is this the final one?
Lay it on me, Mark.
Dun 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 dun. Okay, that one did sound like the Muppet Show.
Yeah. Oh, sure. The one time I get in on it, you're like, yeah, now it's bad. I did it. I got 999 tickets.
Hail the conquering hero.
Thank you. Mark playing dumb for the podcast, even though he got cupcakes and little Tetris. There's confetti and napkins and plates. Mark went all out celebrating my accomplishment of getting 999 tickets in Tetris 99.
Yeah, but that's not. It is true. I did do all of that, but that's
Yes.
not all. There's one last thing, because I know that
What?
there is no better way
Yeah.
to celebrate getting 999 tickets in Tetris 99 for you specifically, Patrick,
Yeah.
than getting you a used copy from like 1974 of the novelization of Conquest of the Planet of the Apes.
Wow. So this is a novelization of the movie Conquest of the Planet of the Apes?
That's right.
Which one is that, 4 or 5?
I'm not sure. I think it's 4, because 5 is Battle for the Planet of the Apes.
That's right. Can I read the back of the book here?
Please.
Thank you so much, by the way. This is great. The time, 1990. The place, a gray, tightly computerized city-state somewhere in North America. The inhabitants, apes who serve as terrified slaves, men who function as brutalized masters, until the apes revolt. And then there's more. But Mark, thank you so much.
The synergies with Tetris 99 are apparent,
Yes.
and many.
The apes wage a savage battle to control the earth. It says on the cover of this book. There's a lot of just like marketing copy on both the front and back of this. This is incredible. Thank you so much, Mark.
Congratulations. A lot of hard work, and I think we determined you're the only person to ever do this, right?
I think that's right. Yeah, it's something that I have gone online searching for. Like, I feel like for just about every video game accomplishment, there's like a group of people being like, I've been working on it for this long, or like tips. The thing is, like, there are no tips for it. You just got to do it every day, right?
This is where it'd be cool if Nintendo had like or even just Tetris 99 specifically had, a trophy like system where you could see how many people had unlocked that.
Yeah, that's
like,
true.
Achievement.
That's
That'd
true.
Be really cool.
I mean, if I ever
or
see
a percentage of players.
Yeah, if I could ever see if I ever see anyone using the icon, which of course I earned this icon, right? This like player icon by unlocking the 999th ticket, and of course I assigned it to myself immediately. So anyone that gets in close enough to see my player icon and knows what it means will have to recognize that I got 999 tickets.
Absolutely. It's like when two Jeep owners pull up at a red light next to each other, right?
Yeah, and there's like a nod or there's like a
there's
wave.
some sort of like brotherhood.
I drove a Jeep for like 3 years, and I only recently found out about this thing. I'm not even really convinced it's real.
Well, for Tetris 99, I'm sure it's real, and I'm sure you're now part of it.
Okay, so just as a follow-up here, we had some questions, right? Like, how exactly does this work? Can you continue to earn tickets after you hit 999?
And of course, we'll never know because you deleted the game immediately after.
Tetris 99 is my game of the year every year since it was released.
Oh, of course.
And it will remain such. And so I had further questions, right? And you can use these tickets to purchase themes, right? Which I had been doing for a very long time, until I was like, oh no, I need to stop spending them and just start saving them up. So a couple like little threads to pull on here, right? So first of all, when you earn a ticket after getting your 999th ticket, nothing happens. 999 is the ceiling.
Oh, okay.
Okay. Next piece of information. I started to use those tickets to purchase the like 4 or 5 themes that I hadn't purchased yet. I did not lose the achievement by dipping below 999 tickets. But I do now have all of the themes.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm not deleting the game or throwing it away or anything, but I am gonna take a little break from Tetris for a while.
It just has to feel, I imagine.
Yeah.
Because this is something I will never achieve. I, of course, am living vicariously through you.
Yes.
I imagine like it must feel like an enormous burden has been lifted off of you. Because it's not like it was a quiet goal for yourself.
No, it was one that I talked about publicly on a weekly basis until I like ashamedly was like, look, I'm going to stop talking about it for a little while. Here's the thing, Mark, I am like barreling towards 2 other huge deadlines in my life that are both like genuine burdens on my back.
Death being one of them.
Okay, 3. So having this one accomplished feels almost like nothing.
Perspective.
Yeah,
That's interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I'm happy I did it. I'm happy it's done. Thank you for the cupcakes. But yeah, it feels a little bit like a hollow victory. We'll maybe feel different after the two big things that are coming up that I will maybe talk about later, but maybe not. One of them definitely not, but another one I will talk about. They're
both good.
They're both good. Everything's
Yeah.
good. Yeah. Mark was joking about death. I'm not dying, except for in the sense that we are all dying. Slowly, I mean, like over the course of time.
Well, congratulations
Thank
on
you.
earning 999 tickets in Tetris 99. That's a huge accomplishment.
Mark, tell me about your continuing adventures in Sea of Stars.
Yeah, so I have been playing a little bit more Sea of Stars. I have gotten to, I guess, like minor spoilers to this kind of like haunted village.
Ooh.
Yeah, the more I play the game, the more I feel like what I said in like my first thoughts of it continue to be true, where it's like I think it's fair to represent the game as like inspired by classic 16-bit RPGs, but it doesn't feel like a 16-bit RPG really, even in like presentation that much. It just feels like an indie RPG.
Yeah,
I'm
sure.
having fun with it. I think the main characters are like I still think I'm not far enough in. I'm maybe like 7 or 8 hours to like I haven't met the big bad yet.
Okay.
And so it feels like there's still a lot more to go. They've like talked about it, and there's some like scary red text whenever his name is mentioned.
It sounds like it's paced like a 90s 16-bit RPG.
But the like things that are happening in the interim, like the little interludes that you experience, like little like side stories.
Yeah.
In that way, it does remind me of like a Dragon Quest, where it's like, okay, yeah, I'm just gonna see this little short story that you know, and then it wraps up, you know, in like a cute, fun way, and then I'm just gonna move on. I continue to like the combat. I continue to like the characters that aren't the two main characters because they just don't have a lot of personality for the most part. It's a little like there's a couple of characters that they lean into the like self-awareness, like self-aware humor.
Sure, okay.
And about being in a game and this being an RPG and like cliches of the genre, which a little of that goes a long way for me. But overall, still having a lot of fun with it.
You and I shared a little moment bonding over the hilarious name Garl. I think
it's good.
It's an all-timer funny character name.
Yeah, I mean it's the perfect like fantasy name where you're like take a normal name,
just
replace a consonant,
change it by just like a little too much.
Yeah,
so it's like hard to say. Garl.
So good.
I have not touched Sea of Stars this week, partially because I was finishing up my Tetris 99 goal, but also because, and we will get to the rest of these games that came out on the Nintendo Switch Online, but 4 games dropped, 3 of which had never been localized outside of Japan before, one of which was Joy Mech Fight on the NES, which is a fighting game that came out in like 1993 or something like that, maybe 4, like late NES game, and it is like a genuine one-on-one fighting game. There are like kind of at a surface level 8 playable characters, but at a deeper level there's 36 characters in the game, and it is shockingly playable, like alarmingly playable. All of the robots are made up of like 6 different sprites, right? So you've got like a head, a body, and like hand, foot, and they're not connected by anything. So it means that the game is really only ever animating like 12 things on screen at once, right? And as a result, there's no flicker, no slowdown, no like framiness at all. The game just looks and plays great and is surprisingly modern and balanced in like the way it functions as a fighting game. It is shocking to me how playable it is.
How did you figure out how to play it? I just saw something, I haven't played it myself, but I just saw something posted online where somebody had like translated some of the like images or some of the screens before you like start playing.
Well, I mean, there is like a whole like setup with like the story of what's happening there. And Mark, let me tell you, I have no idea what's happening there because it's all in Japanese. And I did end up going to like game facts to like dig up some old like Famicom guides for like because the characters have special moves and like there's no in-game like guide for how to do them, and even if there was, it would be in Japanese. So yeah, like went online and like started to find out information and like picked a couple characters to like work on and play as. And just had like a ton of fun messing around with it.
What did you mean by saying on the surface level there's 8 characters, but there's actually like 36?
Sure. So it's I have not dug into getting past the initial 8 characters. I've done it in the single player mode, like the arcade mode, where because you start as one of the robots, the like pink one who's sort of like he's on the cover of the game. You start as him, and then each robot boss that you defeat, you can then play as in the rest of arcade mode. So it's also got like a little bit of a Mega Man kind of thing going on. But so then there are like variations on all of those characters that are unlockable. I don't know if as characters that you fight or characters that you can actually control as well. But like there's cool looking boss characters. There's like this ostrich looking dude, and like a bunch of others. So like they're in there. They're not immediately accessible.
Oh, I see.
Yeah.
That sounds cool. That sounds really cool.
It is. I mean, I understand that some of the, especially on the NES, some of the NSO drops are like bewildering or a little like confusing or like where you're like, oh yeah, this is ultimately something that belongs in the past and like should not be brought forward to whatever. Joy Mech Fight is a just genuine gem. It's a shame that it never got that it never got that it never got localized to North America or Europe or anything. I wonder, it's probably a combination of it being so far already into the Super NES's life cycle, and also just a ton of Japanese in it. There's like a ton of language in it. But like it's a great game. Like I am just I'm surprised at how good it is.
That's really cool.
And then I keep playing a little bit of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Shredder's Revenge Dimension Shell Shock, which I've yet to team up with anyone yet. So like if anyone's putting together a game, let me know. I want to play. I've got my Michelangelo up to level 10 right now, so like I can go in and mess some stuff up with you. I think it would be fun to play the Dimension Shell Shock stuff with multiple people. All right, Mark. That's what we've been playing this week. Let's get into the new releases and what we might be talking about next week. Talking about next week or playing next week. However, how does that transition normally go?
What we might be playing next week.
There we go.
Speaking of things last week,
Yeah.
September 6th, last Wednesday, we did get kind of a surprise. Nintendo Switch Online drop 2 NES games, 1 Super Nintendo game, and 1 Game Boy Color game. So Joy Mech Fight, which you previously... Oh yeah, go ahead.
And all of this is interesting and strange because 3 of these games are imports, essentially.
Right, yeah.
Are just Japanese games.
Joy Mech Fight for the NES. Downtown Nekestu March, super awesome field day.
There we go. It's one of those Kunio-kun games, like River City Ransom. But it is bizarre. It's a race through like the city, and like everyone has weapons, and so they're like beating each other up as they run around the city.
And then on the Super Nintendo, Kirby Star Stacker.
Now, the Game Boy version of Kirby Star Stacker did get ported, or not ported, but localized out to the rest of the world. But the Super NES version had not. It's sort of a paneled upon like, but there are some like extra little twists in there. I didn't get a chance to spend too much time with it, but it is goes along that same sort of like Puzzle League gameplay style.
And then finally, for Game Boy Color, Quest for Camelot.
Okay. Mark, help me understand this choice.
Well, okay, when I first saw it, I just laughed.
Yeah.
Because, yeah, sure, why not? Quest for Camelot, released in like the late 90s, in this period when all the major like film studios decided, hey, we want some of that Disney animated movie money.
That's right.
And so we're going to, Fox made Anastasia.
Yes, but it's so funny when these things start hitting because it's like all after Disney's like renaissance had sort of faded away.
Yeah,
like,
absolutely.
Everything's coming out post Pocahontas here, right?
Yeah. So Quest for Camelot, I don't think I ever saw it. The one thing I remember is that there's like a 2-headed dragon that's kind of like the sidekick. But I didn't realize. So first of all, I was like, okay, yeah, great. We're getting licensed titles, and it's this from this like random movie that nobody saw.
Yeah.
But I didn't realize until later that it was published or co-published by Nintendo.
Yeah, co-published by Nintendo and Titus Interactive.
Crazy.
And Titus had like gotten the rights to make the like video games that were going to come out in conjunction with this Quest for Camelot. There was a Nintendo 64 game in development that they scrapped because the movie was so poorly received, and they were like, no one's going to pay to spend more time with these characters or in this world. But this Game Boy game squeaked out, and now you can play it on your on your Switch.
Yeah, and I know that I've come to embrace the more like esoteric, crazy releases that we get on Nintendo Switch Online, because it's just like, yeah, why not?
Why not?
There's so many games on there.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, I'm sure there are Game Boy Color games that like deserve to be on there over
Donkey Kong 94
like,
isn't on this thing yet.
But like
Donkey Kong 94. Super Mario Land. Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land. There's so many like huge games that aren't on the Pokemon.
all I like truly, deeply, what I would like more than anything is just to understand.
Yes.
And not in like I don't even in like it doesn't have to make sense to me. I just want to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah.
When like this stuff is being like pitched.
Yes.
And how does Quest for Camelot for Nintendo Switch Online and Game Boy Color come to be? Like, I genuinely want to know.
In the first place, or for the end?
For the Nintendo Switch Online.
So here's my guess. David Zaslav, in a just desperate ploy to get whatever additional revenue he can, is like, let's license it out to Nintendo so they can put it on NSO.
That's right. They're beginning to realize that they should give writers and actors a fair deal.
Right. Yes. And he's like, what can tide us over until we figured out that square deal? Of course.
Quest for Camelot.
License out Quest for Camelot.
Online. Makes sense to me. Tomorrow is another milestone of sorts. Tomorrow, Super Bomberman R2 is being released in retail, and then on Wednesday. Oh, no. Today, September 12th. Yes. Super Bomberman R2 is being released on retail, and then tomorrow, September 13th, Super Bomberman R2 will be released digitally. And I say this is a milestone of sorts because
it plays into my Bomberman theory of new Nintendo hardware. That Nintendo hardware usually comes around with a new Bomberman game, and otherwise we don't know about a new Bomberman game. And when you dig into the facts of that, it doesn't really hold together. And this is just kind of another data point in it not being a harbinger of new Nintendo hardware. But here we are. Super Bomberman R2 is out.
And then also tomorrow, Gunbrella is released digitally.
Gunbrella, cool looking, like a platforming action side-scrolly thing where the guy's got an umbrella that's a gun. I mean, it's a pretty good hook.
Then on Thursday, September 14th, Solar Ash is released digitally, and Inspector Gadget Mad Time Party.
Okay, I wanted to just like ask about like Inspector Gadget Mad Time Party. In what way is Inspector Gadget relevant now?
Yeah, I don't think in any way would be my guess.
It's just,
what kind of game is it?
I'm not really sure. It looked a little bit like a 3D like character action kind of game.
Maybe there's a new Inspector Gadget?
Is there a new Inspector Gadget cartoon? Like that would help me like accept the fact that this is something that's happening in the world. But otherwise, if they're just reaching back to, because like I know, the Inspector Gadget cartoon of like the 80s and 90s. And then there was like a Matthew Broderick movie in like 1995.
Yep.
But like, is there other Inspector Gadget stuff?
So apparently there was a Canadian CGI animated television series in 2015.
Okay.
But
that's still 10 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
yeah, I don't know.
All right.
There's I guess somebody saw a license and an opportunity. Then on Friday, September 15th, Batten Kaitos 1 and 2 HD Remaster are released on Switch as well.
Yeah, and those are, among they were GameCube games originally, right? And they both sort of like occupy that like best GameCube games you never played or whatever. And they're card-based RPGs,
That's right, and they were developed by Monolith Soft, so the company that Nintendo eventually acquired, who's been primarily responsible for the Xenoblade series, but has also helped out on games such as Breath of the Wild. So,
a pretty good game. Do you have? I know we've been like curious about Baten Kaitos in the past, but is that something that you think you may check out at some point?
It feels, I'm just gonna be honest, really strongly like game I'll buy but never play.
Yeah,
but I have no plans to buy it right now.
It's an interesting like caveat to the game I'll buy but never play, which is now that you will also not buy it.
Yeah, so I guess no.
All right, Mark, let's get out of the new releases. Which brings us to a regular segment on our show. It is time for 433. In 1952, American composer John Cage wrote a piece called 433, wherein a performer or group of performers didn't play their instruments for 4 minutes and 33 seconds. For the purposes of this show, our instruments are talking about Nintendo. So, for the duration of one performance of 433, Mark and I will talk about something not at all Nintendo related, thus fulfilling the contract of the piece. Mark, we were talking about Quest for Camelot before, which of course makes us both think of the Warner Brothers animated films of the 1990s. And I'm quizzing you, how many of these can you name?
Yeah, okay. So I have to say that even as a kid, this whole like phenomenon kind of like fascinated me.
Yeah. Oh, okay. All right. You were fascinated by it.
Yeah.
You wanted more information.
Well, yeah. I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah.
For that, all of a sudden there were all these like Disney knockoffs happening at the same time.
Right. And I mean, you have to be careful here because there are a lot. You mentioned Anastasia before. That's Fox.
Right. That's Fox.
Right.
Okay. Let's see. Does Space Jam count?
Space Jam is included on this list. Yes,
okay,
1996.
Then Space Jam is one.
Mm-hmm.
Quest for Camelot, which we've talked about.
1998.
And then
which means the Game Boy game came out first. The Game Boy game came out in December of 1997.
Wow. I feel like this is like a real, because like the novelization for like some of the Star Wars prequels came out before the movie did.
Yeah.
So
yeah, true.
So if you wanted to be spoiled on Quest for Camelot, you could have bought the Game Boy Color game.
Yep.
Iron Giant, of course.
1999. Yep.
So after Quest for Camelot.
That's right. Iron Giant rules. Like,
yeah, very good movie.
Very good movie. I would say there's one more very good movie in here.
Oh.
It may feel like a little bit of a curveball though, because it's a superhero. It's a DC product.
Oh, I have no idea. What is it?
Theatrically released in 1993, Batman: Mask of the Phantasm.
Oh, okay. I've only tried. I've heard this movie's really good, but
it's good.
I fell asleep watching it, and I've never tried again.
Mark, stay awake.
And then there's like, I guess not in the 90s, but or at least I don't think it was in the 90s, but that like Looney Tunes Back in Action movie with Jenna Elfman and Brendan Fraser.
Looney Tunes Back in Action is 2003.
Okay. So what? Oh, Osmosis Jones.
Osmosis Jones is 2001.
Oh, then I have no idea. Is there anything left?
Yeah, there's quite a few. So starting in 1990, The Nutcracker Prince. Never heard of it. 1991, Rover Dangerfield. The Rodney Dangerfield is the dog.
I feel like I have seen that one.
Gets sent to live on a barn. On a farm, rather. 1994, Thumbelina.
Okay.
1994, A Troll in Central Park. Space Jam in 96. 97, Cats Don't Dance.
Oh, so I've heard of Cats Don't Dance.
Yeah.
Because the person who directed that eventually directed Emperor's New Groove, I think.
Oh.
Yeah. I think Cats Don't Dance is supposed to be pretty good.
Should we see Cats Don't Dance?
Maybe after I buy Batten Kaitos.
All right, there we go. And then 1999, the only other movie we haven't mentioned here. Well, I guess Pokemon, the first movie, technically they put it out as well. Or Warner Brothers was part of it. Oh, and the last is The King and I. I don't remember there being an animated The King and I. Do you?
Interesting. No.
Well, Mark, you did great. We were accompanied today by the Berliner Philharmoniker. All right, let's get into the news.
I don't feel like I did great, but I feel like we're buoyed by the spirit of you getting 999 tickets in Tetris 99.
Anything else that happens here tonight is just gravy, right? Like I set a goal like a year ago, and I finally got there.
In a new interview with Famitsu, Zelda series producer AJ Aonuma revealed that Nintendo is not planning to release any DLC for Tears of the Kingdom, explaining that his team had, quote, done everything, end quote, there was to do in the Hyrule started by Breath of the Wild and shared by Tears of the Kingdom.
So no DLC. That's the top line thing here. The point of conversation. There is not going to be, or at least they are not at this time ready to announce any DLC for Legend of Zelda: Tears of the Kingdom.
It feels pretty definitive to me that they're ready to move on.
I mean, here's the thing. I've been saying this for a while.
You have.
And like part of what has me like thinking that was always the case is that the way this thing was priced, right? Like a lot of the reason that Nintendo's been able to keep their big first party games at $60 instead of going up to 70 like all the rest of the like next gen console games are, is that they almost always release like a $20 DLC thing. Be it for Animal Crossing or for Mario Kart 8 or the original Breath of the Wild or whatever, a lot of these games. But they didn't have that here. And instead they were just like, no, the whole game is just $10 more expensive and everyone has to buy it.
Yeah. Yeah, and it feels like, I don't know, there was something about all of it. I guess I never really like expected DLC or anticipated DLC. The game just really did feel kind of like a period. You know what I mean? Where it was just like, like we have set our piece on this Hyrule and are ready to move on.
Right. And like with very few exceptions, everything that was added as DLC in the original like has shown up in this game, right? Like we're really just missing like master mode, which is a big one, and the motorcycle, but like you can make your own motorcycle. So
right. There was a follow-up question from Famitsu about the future of the series revisiting that world, but Aonuma held strong to the line, quote, I feel like we've done everything we can to create fun in that world. So, again,
done it all.
Yep. Tears of the Kingdom director Hidemaru Fujibayashi added that he was already thinking about the, quote, next fun experience, end quote, for the franchise.
So there will be another Zelda, right? Like, we can rest assured there will be another one, and it just won't be... How do you feel about this? That moving on from this version, presumably both of, like, this version of Hyrule, but also kind of, like, this version of the game, right?
See, I don't think so. I feel like they've said before Tears of the Kingdom was released, Aonuma was also talking about like, hey, this is the template going forward, probably. You know what I mean? And so I think it'll be fun to see what you take this like idea and mechanics and put it in a whole new world. Like that's really exciting to think where it can go from there. Also, I feel like in that same interview at the very end of it, Aonuma is basically like tells fans like keep your expectations high. Like he's basically like, oh no, like Fujibayashi and team, like they're gonna do even better next time.
Yeah.
And keep
your expectations.
That's basically what he says.
Calling a shot, I guess.
Keep your expectations up. Like, we're gonna work hard to surpass even this. And before the game was released or after the game, whatever, we heard some reporting that the game had basically been content complete since 2022 and that they spent a year in QA and like fixing bugs and all that kind of stuff. And so, even if the entirety of the 3D Zelda team took a year-long break before their next project, they'd kind of be working on it now.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So work has already begun, I'm sure, on whatever the next thing is going to be.
Zelda goes into space.
Yeah, be fun in 8 years or whatever that comes out. Out of the same...
How long do you think? I mean, like, honestly.
Genuinely, I think 7 or 8 years.
Okay, all right.
I think it'll be announced in 5, promised in 6, and then delayed 2 more years.
Announced in 5, like, promised for the next year. So, okay. All right.
That's my guess. out of the same interview, we got some heavy hints from Fujibayashi that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom take place far after the other games in the series.
Was that not what we were already sort of like intuiting? We're
Well,
just getting confirmation.
Yeah, so
sort of.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So here's some, I guess, mild spoilers for both Skyward Sword and Tears of the Kingdom if you are nervous about that kind of stuff. Skip ahead a little bit. So Skyward Sword is canonically the first game in the timeline.
Yes.
And that game ends with Zelda and Link on the surface together and founding the first Hyrule, basically.
Yeah.
And then in Tears of the Kingdom, Sonia and Rauru, when Zelda shows up, they're like, hey, we're the founders of Hyrule. And that doesn't make sense if what we're seeing in the past with Zelda happened at the like founding of Hyrule that Skyward Sword is talking about or hints at the end. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because there are no we see a lot of the surface anyways. There's no Zonai, there's no, and so the only way that makes sense is if Sonia and Rauru are the founders of like the most
next
recent
version.
Hyrule.
Yeah.
No, who knows how many there are in between? Because
good point.
There could be hundreds of thousands of years between the last game and or we'll just say Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, totally. Well, and like, I mean, also just trying to determine like the length of time between any of these Zelda games where it's like generations go by. It's impossible, right? It's an unfathomably long time. But like, what's interesting, one of the things that's interesting about like the Zonai, Rauru specifically, like coming down to be like the founder of Hyrule, is that like he definitely comes from somewhere else, which is also what Link and Zelda did, right? Like they came from the sky. So did he also come from the sky?
Well,
or space?
Yeah, maybe. Yeah, where did the Zonai come from? Or has it just been so long that like the Zonai are, a like evolved species, or you know what I mean? Like who knows exactly? Also, because like they're in both Breath of the Wild and Tears. I've been deep into Zelda lore videos recently, and so like there's no Triforce really in Breath of the Wild or Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah,
in Tears of the Kingdom, like Ganondorf is interested in the secret stones, but
right.
That's all the power that he knows about. Like he's not trying to gather the Triforce or anything like that. So it's like, has all of this knowledge been lost?
Yeah.
Over
have the
Triforces
Triforces been lost?
Right. Yeah. We just don't know.
Yeah.
But also,
where's Madame Couture?
Speaking of lore videos, so I've been watching some that talk about, this is just interesting to me, the subtle differences between the Hyrules in Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, where it's like, yeah, okay, it makes sense that where this Sheikah Tower used to be in Breath of the Wild, some places there's holes, but in other where they like emerge from the ground, but in like one specific place, there's like a skull sitting on top, like, and not like a skull that was placed there, like a skull basically like the hill, and then if you go underneath it, there's like a giant skeleton under there, and it's like, well, where did that come from? Or buildings that are like ruins in Breath of the Wild, and there are ruins in Tears of the Kingdom, but there's like additional building that wasn't there. And some of it is like, well, maybe it's just artistic license. But some of it's also like, well, what is the Hyrule in Tears of the Kingdom exactly? Like, are you seeing, like when Zelda went back in time, is she, because she had that knowledge, did the things that she did back in time like have subtle changes on the reality of Hyrule?
I think it would have to, right? Because we know that like multiple timelines, like that's a thing that is in play with the Zelda timeline anyway, right? Like there is this fork at Ocarina of Time, and we know that it is forked partially by the effect of time travel, right? And here's like real spoilers for Tears of the Kingdom here, so skip ahead like a minute if you don't want to hear any of this. But the fact that we don't see the light dragon flying around in the sky in Breath of the Wild is sort of like the most rock solid proof that we have that before Zelda went back in time, there was no Zelda as dragon flying around up there.
Right. And it makes it like it. Time travel is always like crazy, and this makes it even like crazier to think, how is any of this really possible? But it's just very cool. I'm getting really deep into these like Zelda lore videos.
That's cool.
Also, I used to think that Nintendo didn't take the Zelda timeline seriously, that it was like something that they just that they made up to put into like Hyrule Historia or whatever, because fans were always complaining.
Because you're a cynic.
Because I'm a cynic.
Yep.
But I don't believe that anymore. I think that the Zelda time, and maybe that is what it was initially, but I don't think. I think I have come around to the idea that I think the Zelda timeline is similar to what I believe Nintendo has on all of its like characters, like Waluigi, which is like they don't tell us the information.
Yes,
but they have it like they know internally what Waluigi's deal is.
Right, just like they know what happened to Donkey Kong Jr.
Exactly, and same with like the Zelda timeline. Like I think that they do know, and I don't think it's all like planned out or anything.
Right.
I think they create games and figure out where they're gonna place it and like do all that stuff. And but yeah, I do believe it's a like thing that they consider now. If they didn't always.
Mark, you've been made a believer.
I have. Last week, Nintendo released voice actor Charles Martinet's special farewell video, which had been promised when the announcement was initially made that he would be no longer voicing Mario in video games going forward and be transitioning to this new role of Mario ambassador. The video alternated between Martinet and Shigeru Miyamoto speaking directly to camera against like a white background.
Kind of classic Nintendo Direct format, but with no B-roll and no like real titles beyond like their names on screen.
Yep. I mean, there wasn't really any insight or news other than Martinet appeared to be like enthusiastic and in good spirits, and I don't know if we knew that Martinet called Miyamoto Papa when he saw him,
right?
But that's cute.
It's cute, right? It's definitely cute. Martinet's wearing a red Mario T-shirt, which I feel like is the kind of thing that if they were doing that with any of the like Japanese producers and game directors and stuff, that they would also be wearing like jacket.
Well, that's exactly what Miyamoto was wearing.
Yeah.
He also was wearing a red Mario shirt with a like black sports coat over it.
I'm saying one of them looked great in that video and the other one was Charles Martinet.
Harsh words for our first
Mario
ambassador.
I'm sorry.
But yeah, I thought even though they weren't, they were obviously just filming their parts separately and it was edited together and they weren't actually interacting. I thought Miyamoto's message and Martinet's message both felt like heartfelt. And you could tell that they did, or it seemed to me that they genuinely appreciated like each other.
Right.
I thought it was pretty sweet.
But and you know, I don't know what I was expecting, but like there's zero insight.
No, there's no there. Like
yes.
you know, just the week before when
there's no I'm stepping away because.
Right, which is not surprising to me, but even, you know, the role of Mario Ambassador, I think basically boils down to we'll go to some fan events and, you know, we'll like sign autographs and be kind of like the face for Nintendo, which doesn't sound like a bad gig at all.
No, and is kind of what he was already doing anyway.
New Switch bundles have been announced for North America and Europe, coming out on October 6th of this year. So the first bundle, we've seen like 100 times for Black Friday. It's a Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle, which is with the regular Switch model, not the OLED.
Not the OLED.
Neon red and blue Joy-Con, plus 3 months of Nintendo Switch Online for $299.99.
So you're getting the NSO, the 3 months of NSO, and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe for free.
And I think the difference here from the Black Friday deals is that this does not seem to be limited time. This seems to be, hey,
the new normal.
Like the new normal if you want a regular Switch.
Well, and October 6th, like it is, it's A soon, and B way before Black Friday.
Yeah, so in some ways like a de facto price cut if
I would agree with that.
Because Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, the best-selling Switch title. And
what are you not going to buy it?
Right, exactly. So, you know, if you are picking up a Switch for the first time, that's a pretty compelling deal.
Oh, actually, that's interesting. If they're also like looking to capture people who are buying Switches for this, like a second Switch or whatever. Although buying a second Switch that is just a base model Switch is a little confusing to me. Like don't know who that market is exactly. But then like making you buy another copy effectively of Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is kind of a funny move.
Also interesting to note, the Mario Kart 8 Deluxe bundle isn't getting released in Europe. They'll be getting a Nintendo Switch Sports bundle instead. The second bundle that is going to be released in Europe and North America is an Animal Crossing New Horizons Switch Lite that includes a digital copy of New Horizons for $199.99. So again, kind of like a price cut just built in.
Yeah, and like kind of a big deal actually, because that's like that means that if you were going to buy Animal Crossing anyway, you're effectively getting the Switch Lite for $140, which is like the lowest we've, by a long shot, the cheapest way to get a Switch.
But these are in the US anyways, like retailer exclusive. So
which is so weird.
It is. So there's Isabel's Aloha Edition, which is the coral color, is a Target exclusive, and then Timmy and Tommy's Aloha Edition which is the turquoise one, is a Walmart exclusive.
Which is all like a little strange. I do think it is interesting to point out that both Mario Kart 8 Deluxe and Animal Crossing New Horizons have big chunks of DLC that are available for free with the Nintendo Switch Online Plus expansion pack subscription. So I think they are also trying to, with these new bundles, drive people to the higher subscription rate because they already immediately have a game that utilizes the functionality in like a very meaningful way.
Also, there's the Mario Red OLED Switch that also comes out on October 6th. So Nintendo has new hardware for all three system iterations going into the holidays.
Yeah, which is okay. What's happening here? Is this a all of our existing stock must go because we're like clearing the slate for next year when we launch something new?
I do wonder if that's part of it. Is like they're obviously so far, the Switch hasn't had a price cut at all. I mean, if you want to count inflation being crazy, then technically, but like not really. But yeah, maybe they have the components that they are ready to start, like clearing those channels in preparation for whatever the next thing may be.
What do you make of it all happening on October 6th instead of like waiting to get a little bit closer to Black Friday?
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they are just trying to capture as much of get ahead of Super Mario Brothers Wonder.
Yeah.
That comes out on the 20th.
You think they're anticipating that as like a big like mover of hardware?
I do. I mean, like in relative terms, it is the Switch's like 7th year on market or something.
Yeah.
But yeah, in relative terms, I do. I think they're just looking to capture that moment.
It is the first new 2D Mario on the platform,
and there was just $1 billion grossing Mario movie.
That's a great point.
So
that is excellent data, Mark. Thank you.
But no, I just mean that. Yeah, I think like I do. I think they anticipate it's going to be really big and an they what was it? 15 million Switches that they were planning to sell this fiscal year.
Yeah,
like, that's pretty nuts for how old is the Switch is. And so we were kind of wondering at the beginning of the year, like, how are they going to get there? Sure, there was Tears of the Kingdom, but what else would there going to be?
Right.
And I do think that this is part of that. It's $140 or whatever for a Switch Lite, with the game bundle. You know what I mean? But it's like that's a pretty compelling.
It's a pretty
argument
easy, as a jump on point. And then I mean, like then what? I mean, especially with these the Animal Crossing Switch Lite bundles, where it's like, I know this is not like what the Switch Lite is for, but it's an effective machine for a child, right? And like the affordable Nintendo systems for children are always vectors for Pokemon, right? And they've got a bunch of Pokemon games on there right now that are all like ready to go. They've got some in like the classic variety, some that are more like modern and weird. The remakes of Brilliant Diamond and Shining Pearl. Like I think there are just a lot of the more Switch Lites they can like start pushing out there. I think is probably gonna be good for software sales in general.
Well, speaking of hardware, you know
You
that basically
know.
every week now there's going to be some new hardware rumors, and this week they're coming out of both Eurogamer and VGC. So here's what we know is that Nintendo held private meetings to showcase their new hardware to partners, and both Eurogamer and VGC reported that. They allegedly used a tech demo of Breath of the Wild running at like a higher frame rate resolution than the game normally does to like show off the power of the hardware.
I assume that still when you get into a grassy field, everything slows down.
Yeah, and the Korok Forest.
Oh yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. In the Lost Woods, it's a real problem.
But there's a real precedent of using Zelda stuff as tech demos. We saw that at least with the Wii U. You know, they had a Twilight, a like little slice of Twilight Princess that you could play. Also, apparently, the Unreal Engine 5 Matrix tech demo was shown off running on this new hardware.
Which, like, that's one of those things that's like a impossibly good looking.
It was like a graphical showcase
Yeah.
when, you know, it was shown off. And again, apparently it looks pretty good, like pretty close to PlayStation 5 / like Xbox Series good. But what exactly does that mean?
Yeah.
Right? And like, because how good, like, when you say it's comparable,
right? How much are
like,
you
what
actually
does that
clocking?
mean?
And also, are we seeing that on TV? Are we seeing that in handheld mode? Because
Right.
like, it's a lot harder to be discerning about the power of the Switch when it's in handheld mode, right? Like, the screen is just so much smaller.
And apparently, to achieve this, there was like, it was capable of ray tracing, and it used DLSS technology, which stands for Deep Learning Super Sampling technology,
Which is basically like upscaling from
through like AI.
Yeah.
So like AI, I guess, like seeing the frame and using machine learning to like upscale it. So, and then Eurogamer reported that, quote, Nintendo is keen to launch the system sooner if possible, end quote, than the latter part of the year. As like, because initially, you know, there'd been talk
as the latter part of next year
of 2024, but apparently Nintendo's like looking to launch sooner than that if possible.
Which maybe explains why they're getting the other systems out so much before Black Friday, right? Like,
right, yeah.
The more time they have on the market, the more they can sell. I do think that you know, it's all very exciting to hear these rumors and stuff. I don't really think there was ever any thinking that the direct that we expect to see this week would ever feature any mention of new hardware.
Yeah, it didn't cross my mind.
But I think knowing that all these bundles are coming out is kind of like that's the final word on that. Like, they're not going to put out these bunch of bundles of the old system and then be like, but by the way, if you just wait a little bit, we'll have something else out.
Right.
Yeah.
I also think it's interesting that, you know, like, what exactly was Nintendo showing off? Because everything here is just purely kind of like graphics based, right?
Yeah.
So what, you know, so was it just, there has to be more to it.
There has to be more to it. And there's so much about the Switch and the Switch Lite and the OLED that is successful because of the form factor of the machine, right? There are all these other handhelds on the market right now that are more powerful than the Switch, and you know, they're less successful for a couple of reasons. One of which is you can't play Mario on them, but another is just that, like, the Steam Deck is a big machine to hold in your hands, right? Like, it doesn't have the same like easy holdability of the Switch. Its battery doesn't last as long as the Switch does, and the Switch doesn't have great battery, but like it's good enough. And so I just wonder what sort of compromises to form factor and battery life and brightness and picture quality are being made in the name of getting to a machine that can run the Matrix demo, or play Breath of the Wild like it's a PlayStation 5 game. You know what I mean? Like, I just want to know what it's going to feel like to hold this thing.
Yes. Yeah. Yep. That, and I want to know, like, what is the hook?
Uh-huh.
What is like the thing.
Yes, yeah, because there's gonna be a thing.
There's gonna be a thing.
It's also the other dimension of that made the Switch successful. Price. A more powerful machine is going to cost more, presumably. So like, is it heavier? Is it more expensive? Is the battery less good? Like, these are all strikes against like the sort of ethos of what makes the Switch successful.
Yeah, possibly, but also, like the Switch is running at least 7-year-old technology,
This
and
is all
that's
true.
if the tech was brand new when it was released, which we know it wasn't,
Right.
and so I feel like a lot of strides can be made in a decade, essentially.
I totally agree, and I should trust Nintendo to not develop outside of their constraints for weight and battery and cost. But
There's always a Virtual Boy out there in the future.
That's right. Yes.
Yeah.
And I can worry about that, Mark, until the day I die, which is not happening imminently.
Mario Kart Tour is getting its final update October 4th with the Battle Tour.
Battle Tour.
But the game isn't shutting down. After that, it'll run tours comprised of previous content. So that means no new tracks, no new drivers, no new karts, no new gliders. But
they stopped adding.
Chugging along.
Oh no! You know what? I was going to say they stopped adding characters a while ago. That's my fault. I was thinking of our Dr. Mario World ranking of all the characters.
And I don't know if I truly don't know if they've kept adding characters, or if like by characters they mean like new costumes or variations.
Yeah. I think they consider those all new characters.
Yeah. I mean, but the game launched in 2019, so it's had 4 years of new content. And with the final Booster Course Pass being released later this year for Mario Kart 8 Deluxe, I don't know. It just feels like, we got the hardware stuff going on. We've got the Mario Kart 8 things that were happening this generation wrapping up. It really just feels like there's more and more momentum for whatever is next.
Yeah, just that we are approaching more endings here, right?
Yeah.
That both both these games sort of like nearing their end. It's kind of like, there better be a next Mario Kart game.
Do you think that this means we'll get the final Booster Course Pass like in October? Like, do you think it in this direct, whenever it happens, hopefully Thursday or by Thursday?
Yeah, Wednesday is my
hope. Do you think that maybe we'll hear about the final Booster Course Pass wave? Because traditionally, the new tracks that show up there also in Mario Kart 8 Deluxe end up showing up in Mario Kart Tour, and with the final wave coming for Mario Kart Tour, the final update happening October 4th, I wonder if we will get the final Booster Course Pass somewhere in there as well.
I mean, that bathroom level, that's not coming to Tour, right?
Oh, I think it already did.
Scrub-a-dub or whatever.
In the most recent tour.
Well, I'm probably just wrong. Yeah, I mean, I guess it makes sense that they would try to like time those things together-ish. The this year's releases of the Booster Course Pass waves have been more or less in line with where they were last year. They're about a week earlier, if we're comparing them all like one for one. And last year, the third wave came out on December 7th. So October is pretty early for that. But I guess like it's the end of a thing. So like we can ignore some of the previous dates, I guess.
We know that the Batman Arkham trilogy is headed to Switch on October 13th. But is it possible that the semi-recently released Gotham Knights is coming to Switch as well? The game has been rated for... Here's what we know. The game has been rated for Switch by both the ESRB and the ratings board in Singapore. Neither Warner Brothers nor developer WB Montreal have announced anything officially, but... Nintendo Direct around the corner.
Yep.
Seems like a good time that we might hear more.
This seems like a little bit of a weird inclusion, right? I mean, I guess it was not on the modern hardware, right? It's on PS4 and Xbox One.
No, I think it's the reverse. I think it's on PS5 and
Wait,
Xbox
really?
Series, and they canceled the PS4
Oh, you know
and
what? Yes.
Xbox One versions.
You're right.
Which also makes it a weird inclusion because you would think this version would be based on the PS4 and Xbox One versions.
Right.
And hey, maybe it is. Maybe,
Right, maybe those are all coming out as well.
Yeah, could be.
But regardless, a sort of weird inclusion when like maybe you should try putting one Batman game out on this thing first. But then this is not did not get a super warm reception when the game originally came out last year, I believe. And is also it's got a strong multiplayer / like online play component. And I just wonder how the Switch is going to keep up with that. And all that kind of stuff. I remember being pretty intrigued by this game. I like the Arkham games a lot. And the idea of playing as Dick Grayson or Damian or these other Robins. I guess there's only one other Robins. It was Tim and then Batgirl. Those are all characters that I like a lot and would love to see them sort of interact. But it seemed like it just had too much of a I don't know, online brawler kind of games as a service quality to it that I'm just not interested in. So even if this does make it to Switch, it'll probably be just another platform on which I can ignore it.
One thing we learned from Lost is that what is dead can never die, may never die. Is that from Lost? Am I getting this right?
What is dead may never die is from... It's not from Lost.
It's not from Lost?
What is dead?
Well, this is a failed segue into talking about E3 because some things truly will stay dead, and I think E3 is one of them.
It's Game of Thrones. Game of Thrones is what is dead may never die.
Reed Pop. Oh, so what is the Lost thing?
Live together, die alone?
No, yes, but there's another one. Oof. I'll have to look it up, but I'm not going to do it right now.
Okay.
So Reed Pop and ESA are parting ways after failing to host the doomed video game convention in 2023. It really does just feel like it's cursed at this point.
Absolutely.
The best thing you could do is not try to do an E3 anymore.
Yeah.
Here's the statement from ESA President and CEO Stanley Pierre Lewis. Quote, we appreciate Repop's partnership over the past 14 months and support their ongoing efforts to bring industry and fans together through their various events. While the reach of E3 remains unmatched in our industry, we are continuing to explore how we can evolve it to best serve the video game industry and are evaluating every aspect of the event from format to location. We are committed to our role as a convener for the industry and look forward to sharing news about E3 in the coming months.
Is any of that true? Are they the ESA that the E3's E3 remains unmatched in our industry? The reach of E3 remains unmatched in our industry. Is that true?
Probably. I mean, not anymore. They haven't had one for
years. Yeah.
Yeah, 4 years now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We were at the last E3. That's
crazy.
Just it. We were at the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, I think so. It is weird. When they brought Reed Pop in, I really was pretty hopeful that they could figure something out. But yeah, I think it's just, I really just think it's companies have figured out they don't need it anymore.
Yeah.
So what's the point of trying to prop up this zombie convention?
Yeah, don't need it / couldn't really use it, right? Microsoft was already kind of doing their own thing, and Sony had stopped participating a while ago. And I know that there were other places saying that they weren't going, but Ubisoft was hey, if there is an E3, we'll be there. But I think that Nintendo pulling out to pull this all back to we're a Nintendo show. That this is the first time that there was an E3 hypothetically, and Nintendo was we're not going to be there. That's it, right? If you can't get that relationship working right, then that's it. That's the end.
Yeah, definitely. Mortal Kombat 1 comes out in just a few days?
Yeah,
weeks?
Real soon?
Pretty soon.
Yeah, real soon.
So kind of some weird news / great news if you're a Jean-Claude Van Damme fan. Fans purchasing the premium edition of Mortal Kombat 1 will get an alternate skin for Johnny Cage that turns him into Jean-Claude Van Damme, complete with unique dialogue recorded by the man.
So it's not just a skin that makes him look like it changes the character's name to Jean-Claude Van Damme.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can toggle between that and Johnny Cage. And he has like separate little like pre-fight banter with other characters with Johnny Cage. He makes some joke about like, we'll do a movie together, you'll be a Street Fighter. It's like, it's bizarre stuff. And I don't know what to make of it other than like Mortal Kombat 1 just having a fun time right now. They're doing whatever they want.
And finally, we have the results of the most recent Splatfest. The motivating question, and Patrick is the one who compiled this, so guaranteed to get it right this time.
It's going to be right this time.
Yep.
Look, we messed it up last time, and we apologize.
The motivating question was, who would be the best leader, with the three idols, Shiver, Fry, and Big Man, being the three potential answers. At halftime, it was basically a three-way tie, but in the end, Team Shiver got first place, Big Man in second, and Fry trailing in third. That's how the popularity worked too. Team Shiver had over half the vote with 55%. Big Man pulled in 27%, and Fry the remaining 18%.
Which I don't know if I just like live in a bizarre corner of the internet, but I would have thought that Big Man was running away with this thing.
Yeah, I think kind of a surprising result, but also really early for us to be having this kind of Splatfest, right?
Yeah, you and I didn't like break this down when the Splatfest was announced, but every version of Splatoon has had these like pit the idols against each other Splatfests, and in Splatoon 1 it was Kelly versus Marie, and that was the final Splatfest. There were no Splatfests after that. Splatoon 2 had their Chaos versus Order, Pearl representing Chaos and Marina representing Order. And there were a couple of other Splatfests after that, but they were like replays of older themes and one tie into the Mario 35th anniversary. And also that Chaos versus Order was the 27th Splatfest. This is only the 9th Splatfest for Splatoon 3. I have to assume that we will have more Splatfests after this one, but like, I don't know. It's we're thrown off the precedent trail here.
Yeah, which I guess is kind of exciting because I mean we are at basically the 1 year anniversary.
Yes.
For Splatoon 3, they promised 2 years of updates. We have a whole nother year of updates to go. And now that we have this one out of the way, what will the final Splatfest be? The one that determines the future of the Splatoon universe.
Well, and we're getting this side order DLC coming up at some point. We still don't have a date for it. They teased it at the last Direct, right? Right? Was that just the last one?
I can't remember if they mentioned it in June, but either way, it's supposed to come out soon. So in this next Direct, I would expect to have a release date.
Yeah,
or something else.
yeah. And could even be coming out later this week. Like I think that's entirely possible. And I think it is also possible that like shapes the world of Splatoon as well. And maybe they had been waiting all this time to get through this first year of content, including a like mid-season finale of pitting the idols against each other. So I don't know if the idols change. I don't know if the idols
interesting.
If something happens to them or what. But I think we are we're primed for something.
Yeah. Ooh, it's kind of exciting.
Yeah.
Because otherwise I would have just expected this to be the final Splatfest.
Right.
Now there's
but we know it's not.
Yes.
It simply cannot be. All right, Mark, let's get out of the news. All right, that is going to do it for this episode of Nintendo Cartridge Society. Thank you so much to everyone for listening. Join our Discord, email us, and we will send you an invitation. Anthony DeLuca made our logo. Our theme music is provided by 8-Bit Betty. You can get more of his music by going to 8bitbetty.com or by listening right now. For my co-host, Mark Mitchell, this is Patrick Ellers saying thank you for listening.
I looked it up, and it's just Dead is Dead.
Oh, just Dead is Dead? What's the context for that?
It's a title of an episode from Lost, Season 5, Episode 12.
Season 5, Episode 12, Dead is Dead? Whose episode is it?
Ben.
It's a Ben episode.
Yeah, do you know what's so funny is all the other ones in episode 6 have like a hyperlink to take you to more information about the episode.
Yeah.
That's the one that does not.
Oh, weird.
Yeah.
Well, because it wouldn't be the one where he like well, I shouldn't put spoilers for Lost at the at the very end of this episode of the show. Dead is Dead, a Ben episode.
Yep.
Season 5.
And towards season 5, episode 12, and there were 16 if you the last one was a 2-part finale.
Yeah.
So like towards the end of it too. So maybe something big went down.
Oh no, you know what oh my God. We gotta just talk about this off mic because I think I know what episode that is.
Okay, yeah.
All right, we gotta go.